one, gonna go!
Coming up, we'll recap the last Padres game, preview today's starting pitching matchup, give you our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Craig Stammen. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network, as today the Padres take on the Arizona Diamondbacks in the final game of a two-game series in Mexico City. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Diamondbacks, right-hander Ryan Nelson, and for the Padres, right-hander Michael King. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at Estadio Alfredo Harpelú in Mexico City at 1:05 p.m. In the next 50 minutes, we have got a lot to do. A jam-packed pregame show for you on this Sunday. We'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. We'll hear from Gavin Sheets, hear from Mason Miller, hear from Michael King, and hear from Ramon Laureano. And in just a little bit, we check in with Padres radio voice Jesse Agler. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971, with 3 locations: La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres enter today 18-8, the best record by winning percentage in all of baseball. Padres have won 16 of their past 19 games, and today the Padres look to win a 7th consecutive series. That's a run that now goes back 3 weeks to when the Padres took 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox in Boston. Padres enter today with a half game lead over the Dodgers atop the National League West. Diamondbacks, meanwhile, are 14-12. They've lost 4 of their past 5 games. This is the 3rd time a Major League regular season series is being played in Mexico City. Padres are 3-0 all-time in the regular season in Mexico City. They swept the Giants in 2 games there in 2023. They try to sweep another 2-game series here today. So that sets the table for you. And yesterday, the comeback kids were at it again. Let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, the D-backs scored 4 runs in the second against Padres starter Germán Marquez. The score stayed 4-0 for a while. That was until the top of the 5th inning, courtesy of Ty France.
First pitch here, swung on, sent in the air to right center field. This one is well struck. Thomas is going back to watch. Ty France gonna go! Ty France in Mexico, a 2-out solo shot here in the top of the 5th inning. Padres are on the board. It's 4-1.
It would stay 4-1 for a bit. Marquez allowing just those 4 runs through 6 pretty strong innings. We went to the 7th inning. Padres down 4-1. Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for Arizona. Padres only had 2 hits to that point. Jackson Merrill drew a leadoff walk. Manny Machado singled. Brandon Pfaadt balked with 2 guys on base. They went to second and third. Xander Bogaerts walked to load the bases with nobody out. D-backs manager Torey Lovullo went to right-hander Taylor Clark to face Gavin Sheets.
Here's the first one to Sheets. Gavin swings, hits it hard through the right side, and a base hit. Merrill has scored. Machado's being waved. Here comes the throw from Carroll. It is cut, a 2-run single, and a 1-run game here in the 7th.
Padres then loaded the bases again on an error. Freddie Fermin tied the game with a sac fly. Jake Cronenworth got hit by a pitch to load the bases again. Ramon Laureano hit a go-ahead sac fly to give the Padres a 5-4 lead. A 4-run 7th inning. In the 9th inning, it was Ty France who struck again.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. And France swings, sends it in the air deep to right field. Corbin Carroll's going back. He's going to watch this one. Gonna go! Second of the day for Ty France. The Padres add on. It's 6-4 here in the 9th.
After Adrian Morejon and Jason Adam each pitched a scoreless inning in relief, it was Mason Miller in the 9th.
Now the 1-1 pitch, swung on, grounded to first base. France has it behind the bag. Little flip to Miller in plenty of time, and the ball game is over. Padres with yet another come-from-behind win, this time in Mexico City. They beat the Diamondbacks 6-4, and they'll break out their mini brooms here tomorrow afternoon to try for the 2-game sweep.
It was the Padres' 9th win already this season, where they took the lead in the 7th inning or later, the most in the major leagues. And it sets up an opportunity for a mini sweep of this 2-game series against the Diamondbacks. Let's go to Estadio Alfredo Harpelu in Mexico City.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Jesse, certainly another great come-from-behind win for the Padres yesterday on the field, but can you give us a little vibe, a little feel for what the last 48 hours or so have been for you and the Padres in Mexico City, maybe outside the ballpark?
I mean, it's a madhouse, man. It's it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
It feels like a giant baseball party. And what's better than a giant baseball party? I mean, it feels like a true celebration of the game, which I imagine is exactly what Major League Baseball had in mind when they put something like this together. And, I haven't had the opportunity to go to the London series necessarily, but I have been privileged enough to see Major League games now in Monterrey, in Seoul, and twice in Mexico City. And the vibe here is just kind of on a different level. It's just a pure celebration of the game. It feels like a party from hours before first pitch until after the game ends. And it's just kind of a beautiful distillation of everything that we love about baseball, of the culture here in Mexico City. And it's just kind of it doesn't really feel like just a baseball game. It really goes beyond that. And it's been just a wonderful couple of days here. It really has.
Yeah, well, certainly comes through on the broadcast as well. You could hear how loud the Padres fans were yesterday, how many guys talked about the support of the Padres fans in the building yesterday. And those fans were treated to quite the ball game yesterday. Another comeback win. And Jesse, to you, what's the value of the Padres continuing to simply find ways to win very often when they're trailing?
It's one of those things that can build upon itself within a season. Remember a couple of years ago, they were so good with runners in scoring position. That is not one of those things that necessarily carries over from one season to the next, but it is one of those things that can carry over within a season. And I think it's very similar with these come-from-behind wins, because you just sort of, begin to believe that, all right, this is something we can do. And obviously this team has that. It's crazy to think that opening day was a month ago today, and already 9 wins in which they took the lead in the 7th inning or later. That is a remarkable kind of history of success already in terms of late game comebacks. So, I think it's fair to say, even though it's only been a month, that is a big part of the identity of this team. And for them to come into today with the best record in baseball, with Fernando, Manny, and Jackson Merrill combining to hit 218 with 5 home runs is a heck of a storyline. And that's something I know I want to talk to Tony about a lot during the game today, because there's a couple of ways to cut that apple up, right? You can say, well, that's great. You can also say, boy, there's got to be a lot more to come. You can also say, you got to get some more out of those guys,
right?
Obviously. It's a very, very interesting first month, certainly. And it'll be a fascinating summer ahead, I'm sure.
Jesse, I do want to focus on the Merrill Machado Tatis part of it, because I thought Craig Stammen was asked about it before today's game, asked about the idea that even though those guys clearly aren't clicking yet, they still are contributing to a lot of these wins. Yes. I mean, you look at the 2 rallies on Thursday and yesterday, walks, base hits, they were big parts of what was a rally where the Padres just sort of moved the line, especially in the early parts of those rallies. I think a good example, Jesse, of even when those guys aren't necessarily at their best, you can still contribute and be pretty big parts to a winning team.
There's no doubt about it. We've talked a lot, I think, in the last few weeks about all the walks that Manny has drawn at a base hit yesterday. There was a part of that rally. The whole thing began, remember, with Jackson drawing a 10-pitch walk, which is not necessarily something we expect to see from Jackson Merrill. But you're right. Just because they're hitting a combined 218 doesn't mean they aren't contributing offensively. And look, the best thing you can say about a player offensively, right, is that even when they're not doing the things you expect them to do, are they still helping you win in other ways?
Yeah.
And it's a resounding yes for all 3 of those guys. That can mean defense, of course, but it can also mean, are they doing other things with their bats that, maybe you don't expect them to do? And that's very, very, very true of all three of those guys here early on this season.
Michael King on the mound for the Padres today. Ryan Nelson, who got hit hard his last time out, on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Jesse, it's hard to know what to expect in these games because that first game in 23 was so crazy, but the second game in 23 was pretty normal. Yesterday was fairly normal. Going to be kind of interesting to see what kind of game we get here today.
Yeah, I mean, you're tempted to throw that first game out now, right? And to say, all right, something was obviously not in the water, but, something was obviously going on. But also, it's hard to ignore that happened, and it's hard to sort of pretend like it didn't. So it's always in the back of your mind that things can go nuts. Today's game is a couple hours earlier than yesterday. It's warmer today than it was yesterday. So certainly the ball, I think, will carry a little bit better than it did yesterday. It's also not windy like it was yesterday. So I would expect balls in the air to perhaps travel a bit more today. Does that mean we're going to see as many home runs as we did in game 1 of 2023? I don't know. I don't think so. But also, again, maybe a little bit of, battle scars there of making you think that it could happen. We'll find out. But look, if Michael King is on his game and he's locating, then it's hard, to do that. But with Ryan Nelson, as you said, coming off just a nightmare start against the Blue Jays last Sunday, he has also been hit very, very hard this year in other starts too. He is also a guy that does not get ground balls. Everything is in the air against Ryan Nelson. And sometimes you can survive that. Sometimes that's no big deal. I don't know that that's a recipe for success in this building. Whatever, the ball is carrying, like whatever the conditions might be, you're still 7,000 feet above sea level. So being an extreme fly ball pitcher as he is, we'll see how that goes for Ryan Nelson.
Jesse, good stuff as always. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 12:55 here in San Diego. Thanks so much.
You got it, Timmy.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:05 p.m. for the second game of this quick two-game series between the Padres and Diamondbacks in Mexico City. Remember, the Padres return home tomorrow, start of a three-game series and a homestand against the Chicago Cubs. So the Padres will be back home at Petco Park tomorrow night at 6:40 p.m. Have an all-Chicago homestand that'll be Monday to Wednesday against the Cubs, day off Thursday, and then the White Sox come to town Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. Much, much more to do on our pregame coverage on this Sunday. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:05 p.m. in Mexico City at Estadio Alfredo Harp-Helú, Game 2 of this mini two-game series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Padres come in playing great baseball. They've won 16 of their last 19 games, and the 18-8 overall record, the best record in baseball by winning percentage entering the day. So the Padres continue to find ways to win, and the Diamondbacks come in a record of 14-12. As we get ready for this one, let's hear from Craig Stammen.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
Craig Stammen is about a month into his managerial tenure with the Padres. He was asked earlier today what he's learned his first month on the job.
You know, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. It's especially fun when you're winning. You know, the wins and the losses are really the only thing you have yourself tied to as a manager. As a player, you still have the small wins of, you know, what you do on the field. So that's probably the difference in the day-to-day. But, you know, I'm enjoying the challenge. It's been fun. It's tested my leadership skills, tested my personality, tested whether I can be the same person every single day. And I've kind of enjoyed that challenge.
And one fair question that I think some of us had with Craig Stammen getting the job is, what would it be like for Craig and for the players having Craig, who is so close to his playing days and who is teammates with some of the guys on this current Padres roster? What would that dynamic be like, having Craig Stammen manage that group of players? Here was Craig on how it has been managing players that he once played with on the field.
I've enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's made my job a lot easier, honestly. And a credit to the players too. Like, I think it's not easy for them to be in that situation also, and they've handled it really well and shown me a ton of respect in that regard.
We just talked about this with Jesse Agler before the break. It's no secret a number of guys in the middle of the Padres lineup, namely Merrill, Machado, Tatis, they're certainly not playing at their highest capabilities right now. All those guys, one way or another, sort of off to slow starts here in 2026. Here was Craig Stammen on, despite some of those big guys in the middle of the lineup not hitting great, the fact that those guys are still contributing in some key rallies and moments.
Yeah, it's so valuable. That's why, you know, I think the guys you're referencing to are hitting in the middle of the lineup, is we feel comfortable with them in big situations, no matter how they're feeling at the plate. I think Jackson, who's not a notorious walker, has had a couple of big walks here lately that have sparked some big innings. And then Manny, who's not, you know, your typical opposite field hitters, had a couple of big opposite field hits. So it's just those guys buying into the team aspect of the game and knowing that they're never out of it, and that one at bat, you know, can change the course of the game in their mind.
A month into the season, Fernando Tatis Jr. still searching for that elusive first home run of the year. Also, Fernando, only 4 extra base hits a month into the year. Here was Craig Stammen on Fernando's swings yesterday, and on Fernando trying to get the ball in the air a little bit more.
Phenomenal talent Fernando is, and you know, it just shows you everybody's human and that we're all trying to work on things to be better. And he's definitely been working on that. I think the last 3 swings he took in yesterday's game, from visual from our side of the dugout, we were very excited about. So, you know, they're going to continue working and trying new things. And I think eventually you're going to see a very hot Fernando Tatis Jr. 2 hard hit balls. I mean, absolutely scolded balls yesterday. And then I think just the way his body was moving, we felt like he was a little bit more behind the baseball than what he's been in the past. And, you know, I think sometimes you can foul balls. You can, you know, sometimes those are the things that lock you in. And, you know, maybe that's what it is. But it's, you know, continued work in the cage, continued conversations. I think he's trending in the right direction.
Finally, another big picture question for Craig Stammen today. Here was Craig on what he's learning about how to enjoy winning while also understanding it's a long season and the pressure of continuing to win as a major league manager.
I think I'm still learning that a little bit, but, you know, in the end, I don't have control over whether we win or lose. It's, you know, out of all of our control. It's kind of just how we play the game is what I'm focused on. The process about how we go about our business. and then how I treat people. Just try to treat people in the right way. And I feel like if we do all those things, maybe the results will end in our favor and maybe they won't. But in the end, I can leave and be satisfied with how everything went. Yeah, I think as a manager, probably my number one goal is to be the person that is the steadiest and that manages the highs and the lows as best I possibly can. And fortunately, my personality is like that. It was an advantage I had as a pitcher. And so I'm able to use that same advantage here as a manager. But like you said, there are a bunch of ups and downs throughout the season. It's how we manage those. And we tend to joke about the ups and downs a little bit, which makes it easier to stay steady.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen earlier today in Mexico City. We'll hear more from Craig on our post-game coverage coming up later on this afternoon. A look at the Padres lineup today looks like this. Ramon Laureano in left field leading off. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field batting second. Jackson Merrill in center batting third. Manny Machado at third base batting cleanup. Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop, batting fifth. Gavin Sheets at first base batting sixth. Miguel Andujar, the DH today, batting seventh. Luis Campusano behind the plate batting eighth, and Jake Cronenworth at second base batting ninth, with right-hander Michael King on the mound. It is Military Sunday on the Padres Radio Network, and it's presented by your San Diego County Toyota dealers. If you're looking for a great deal on a new Toyota, head to toyota.com. We make it easy. First pitch coming up at 1:05 in Mexico City. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to step up their game? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not. Presented by ASAP Drain Guys and Plumbing, a division of Anderson Commercial, your full-service plumber serving San Diego County.
Let's begin with a look at the hot category. Couple of guys in there today. Xander Bogaerts continues to be in there. His last 17 games, Xander hitting .361 with 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 10 runs scored in 7 multi-hit games in that span. Since April 5th, Bogaerts ranks third in batting average and on base percentage amongst all major league hitters. He also ranks fifth in OPS in the National League since April 5th. Luis Campusano back in the lineup today. He's been great since the start of April, batting .387 in 31 at-bats, 2 home runs, 6 doubles, and 7 RBIs in that span. The not category, it has been a tough road trip for Jackson Merrill, despite Jackson certainly being involved in those couple of rallies, the big ones on Thursday and Saturday. However, Jackson is only 1 for 25 on this road trip with 14 strikeouts in those 7 games. Jake Cronenworth did have 2 hits the other day in Colorado, but overall he's hitting just .163 in 80 at-bats, only 3 extra base hits so far this season for Jake. And that's a quick look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for Game 2 of this 2-game series in Mexico City. We had some big news late last night from the East Coast. Let's tell you more about it as we go around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, last night, the Boston Red Sox fired longtime manager Alex Cora, along with 5 members of his coaching staff. That included Red Sox great Jason Varitek, who was the game planning and run prevention coach. Chad Tracy, the Red Sox AAA manager in Worcester, was named interim manager. Red Sox were off to a 10-17 start. That's after beating the Orioles 17-1 yesterday. Cora was in the second year of a 3-year deal worth nearly $22 million. It was a huge shakeup for the Red Sox yesterday. Some interesting reactions inside the Red Sox clubhouse this morning. Trevor Story, one of the veteran players on the Sox, he said that the explanation given to players from general manager Craig Breslow about Cora's firing wasn't satisfactory. He also said, quote, "It's up in the air what the true direction of the franchise is. Some of the best coaches in the world didn't get a fair shot." So big news last night from the Red Sox. Alex Cora, who won a World Series for the Red Sox in 2018, he is out as manager. And again, Chad Tracy becomes the interim manager of the Red Sox. Yankees slugger Giancarlo Stanton was not in the starting lineup for a second straight day today after exiting Friday's win in Houston over the Astros, or I should say against the Astros, with the right calf tightness. Yankees manager Aaron Boone saying a decision on whether Stanton will need an IL stint should be made in time for tomorrow's game against the Rangers. A's activating Brent Rooker off the 10-day IL earlier today. He missed 14 games with a right oblique strain. And finally, yesterday, former Braves manager Brian Snitker was inducted into the Braves Hall of Fame in his 50th year with the Braves organization, which of course includes managing for 10 years from 2016 through 2025. He managed Atlanta to the 2021 World Series title. And that's a quick look at some of the headlines from around the major leagues. Again, the biggest of which, Alex Cora out as Red Sox manager as of last night. When we come back, we'll give you an update on a couple of injuries that happened in yesterday's game. We also have our keys to today's game, plus a lot of pregame audio for you. We'll hear from Gavin Sheets, Mason Miller, Michael King, Ramon Laureano. A lot to do as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 1:05 p.m. in Mexico City. Our pregame coverage continues after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues on this Sunday from inside our San Diego studios. Sam Levitt with you. We send things out to Jesse and Tony in just about 20 minutes. They will be live from Estadio Alfredo Harpelú in Mexico City. First pitch coming up at 1:05 p.m. Padres trying to win a 7th consecutive series, going back to 3 weeks ago when they took 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox in Boston. Padres have won 16 of their past 19 games. Right-hander Michael King on the mound for the Padres today. He has been very, very good as of late. We'll talk more about King coming up in just a little bit. Obviously, when you're pitching at the altitude more than 7,000 feet above sea level in Mexico City, as we know, it's always a challenge. Here was Michael King on the keys in his start today in Mexico City.
I think I take every start as the biggest challenge. And yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. I got to keep the ball on the ground. I know it flies here. I've seen it the last couple times MLB's been here. Diamondbacks are a good team, and yeah, it's all about executing. I got to keep the ball down, keep the ball on the ground, and pitch to their weaknesses.
That was Michael King. Keep the ball down, keep it on the ground. Sounds like a pretty good recipe for success. Let's give you today's injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, the D-backs had two very notable players come out of yesterday's game. Let's begin with Zach Allen. He left that start yesterday, as you probably remember, with a right shoulder contusion after he was hit by a line drive comebacker. He did finish the third inning, but he was taken out after that. Geraldo Perdomo, maybe the most important player the Diamondbacks have. You could argue he's that productive. Their shortstop, he twisted his left ankle in the seventh inning. Diagnosed as a left ankle sprain, came out of the game. He is considered day-to-day, but most notably regarding today's game, Perdomo not in the lineup today. Doesn't sound like Perdomo or Gallen, like these are going to be serious injuries from the sound of it today, but we'll see. Perdomo not in the lineup today, obviously a big loss for the Diamondbacks. And that's a quick look at who's out of today's game. Gallen obviously not going to pitch, and so we'll see if Perdomo is available at all. But again, not starting today. Instead, the Diamondbacks putting Jose Fernandez at shortstop and Eldemaro Vargas leading off at second base, and Ketel Marte DHing today and batting second. Well, Gavin Sheets had a big two-run single in yesterday's game. That comes after what was that huge go-ahead three-run home run in Colorado in the win on Thursday. We'll hear from Gavin Sheets on what's allowed him to come through in those big situations in a moment. But first, it was really notable yesterday just how Padres-centric the crowd was in Mexico City. Jesse and Tony talked about it quite a bit. You could see on social media, you could hear it on the radio, or if you were watching on TV, just how many Padres fans were in the building. Here was Gavin Sheets on having a Padres crowd in Mexico City.
That was an awesome experience to have the crowd behind us like that, and just this whole weekend in general has been an awesome experience, and you know, getting the Craig called the Petco of the South is pretty cool, and you know, we could definitely feed off that, and you know, we knew we could stay in this game, and if we got a shot in the late innings, that we could do what we've done all year, and having that crowd support was really big for us.
We just mentioned Gavin coming through in big spots on Thursday and Saturday. Here was Gavin Sheets on what is allowing him to come through in these big situations.
Obviously, the big at-bats in front of me are huge. You know, you can't get a big hit without guys getting on in big situations. And, you know, I always say that hitting's contagious. And when guys in front of you are taking really good at-bats and putting pressure on the guy, you know, obviously there's a belief that I want to be in those positions. I want to be that at-bat. But the at-bats that guys are putting in, especially late innings, off some of the best arms that we face, that's the biggest thing. And just riding it and staying in it and trying to get the job done.
Yesterday was the Padres' 9th win already this season, where they took the lead in the 7th inning or later, the most in the major leagues. The Padres just continue to find ways to win when they're trailing. Here was Gavin Sheets on what is allowing this team to keep on finding ways to come back in games.
Yeah, the biggest thing is the belief. You know, there's a no quit belief, and I think obviously what you said, when you've done it a couple times and then you start believing that you're going to do it over and over and over. You know, I think that's the biggest difference between what we've got going this year versus what we did last year. You know, a couple times that we would get down and wouldn't make that punch back, and you know, we're making that punch back, and obviously our pitching's keeping us in games, which is the biggest thing. You know, credit to the pitching staff. You know, Herman tonight keeping us in that game, letting us get a chance that if we could start, you know, kind of punching back, we get right back in it. And you know, our pitching's been unbelievable, and then a lot of timely hits from the 7th inning on.
And I think it's a really great point by Gavin Sheets. We talked about it a lot yesterday. German Marquez keeping that run total for the D-backs at 4 through 6 innings after giving up 4 in the second inning. That was a huge part of the Padres having the ability to come back and win yesterday's game. Finally, one more here from Gavin Sheets. As you probably heard on the broadcast, after his 2-run single, the chants of holy sheets in the crowd in Mexico City. Here was Gavin on hearing the chants south of the border.
That was pretty special. Obviously in San Diego, it's special, but leaving the country and coming here and having these fans here and hearing that the first at bat was really cool, a little unexpected, and then after the hit, obviously it was loud. So that was and having Rey Mysterio say it on the introductions, that wasn't on my bingo card either. So pretty special.
That was Gavin Sheets in Mexico City. Gavin is back in the Padres lineup today, playing first base and batting sixth. First pitch coming up at 1:05 in Mexico City. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have a bunch of games going on right now. The Red Sox, after firing Alex Cora, they're ahead of the Orioles 5-2 in the 7th inning in Baltimore. Braves beating the Phillies 6-0 in the 7th inning in Atlanta. Blue Jays beat the Guardians, or I should say beating the Guardians 4-2 in Toronto in the 7th inning. Doubleheader today in New York between the Rockies and Mets. Rockies leading game 1 of that doubleheader 3-1 in the 7th inning. Tigers ahead of the Reds 6-3 in Cincinnati. 7th inning there. Rays 4, Twins 2 in the 7th in Tampa Bay. Astros lead the Yankees 7-0 in Houston in the 5th inning. Pirates trailing the Brewers 5-0 in Milwaukee in the 5th inning. White Sox and Nationals are scoreless in the 8th in Chicago. Mariners and the Cardinals are tied at 1 in St. Louis in the 6th inning. A's lead the Rangers 2-0 in Arlington in the 4th inning. Games yet to begin. Aside from this one, Marlins and the Giants at 1:05 in San Francisco. Angels in Kansas City at 1:10. Cubs and the Dodgers in LA at 1:10. And finally, game 2 of that doubleheader, the Rockies and the Mets coming up later as well. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Sunday. We'll have more on those games coming up in just a little while on our post-game coverage. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game on the Padres Radio Network.
Key number 1, we've talked about it quite a bit already, but keep scoring late. After yesterday, the Padres have now outscored opponents 55-26 from the 7th inning on this season. That is a plus 29 run differential in the 7th inning and later. That's the best mark in Major League Baseball in the 7th inning and later. And hey, whether it's to add on runs, break a tie, pull off a come from behind win, never hurts to score late. That's key number 1. Key number 2, slow down Vargas. The D-backs, Ildemaro Vargas, leading off today, has a 22-game hit streak going back to last year, the 4th longest hit streak in Diamondback history. Vargas has hit safely in his first 19 games of this season. Slow him down at the top of the lineup. That's key number 2. Key number 3, let's go to the bottom of the Arizona lineup. The number 8 hitter, Alek Thomas. Got to be tough on him. Alek Thomas has an extra base hit in 6 consecutive games, going 8 for 22 with 4 doubles, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs in that span. Key number 4. Oh, we got my phone playing audio over there. I don't know what's going on. Well, why is my phone playing my audio over there? All right, Michael in Mexico City. Michael King has won 3 straight starts against the Angels, Mariners, and Pirates while allowing just 3 runs in 17 combined innings, a 1.59 ERA during those 3 outings. And that's a look at our keys to the game. Let me get my phone situation figured out there. My phone's on I'm filming myself. It's playing audio. I think it's playing what the segment was earlier. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back. More pregame audio for you. You hear me all kinds of ways here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Visit EcoWaterSoCal.com or call 760-350-3338. That's 760-350-3338. Let me revisit that final key in our keys to today's game, because I got totally discombobulated by audio coming out of my phone. You know, it was so weird. I'm filming a video, my social media video. So I'm filming something on a tripod on my phone. While the video was filming, it started playing audio from a video prior in the show. So you heard my voice, at least in my headphones. I heard my voice coming out of two different places. Totally discombobulated me, but it was fine. I don't even think you heard it on the radio. So I probably sound crazy, but just believe me when I say, when you have something playing from an external source, when you're on these microphones, it is impossible to concentrate. So I got totally messed up. Let me get back to key number 4, because I think it's important. I did not convey it very well. Michael King has won 3 straight starts against the Angels, Mariners, and Pirates while allowing just 3 runs in 17 combined innings. During those 3 outings, he's been very good lately, a 1.59 ERA. King is 2-0 while throwing 13 2/3 scoreless innings in 3 career starts against Arizona. So the way Michael's pitched lately, the way he's pitched against the Diamondbacks would suggest a good chance that Michael King puts together a good outing today. But of course, he is pitching at the extreme elevation, 7,000 plus feet above sea level in Mexico City. But Michael King certainly a big part of today's game for the Padres. And we'll talk about Ryan Nelson, the opposing starting pitcher, in just a moment. Let's hear a little bit more from the Padres. Mason Miller, who is now in the midst of the longest consecutive scoreless inning streak in Padres franchise history at 34 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings going back to August of last season. Here was Mason when he was asked about if he's been focused on the streak.
I haven't focused on a streak or trying to break any records this whole time. I just focus on the day at hand, and I think when you have that attitude, you're going well, things just kind of fall into place after that.
Obviously, Mason being managed by a former reliever in Craig Stammen. Here was Mason earlier today on the job that Craig has done so far as a fellow reliever.
Awesome job on many fronts. But yeah, I think we kind of knew coming into it that would be something that would be good for us in the bullpen. Comforting to know that, he's been where we're at, thinks like we think. So I think the consideration for that's been huge. I think a lot of guys are benefiting from it.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Padres did a really nice job on Friday getting out in the Mexico City community. They had a kids clinic for youth baseball and softball players. The videos, images that came out from that were really, really fun. What an experience for the Padres and those kids. Here was Mason Miller on that kids clinic on Friday.
I enjoyed the kids camp that we did on Friday. And myself, not speaking much Spanish, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I understand enough basic phrases to talk to the kids a little bit, but just seeing the joy and how much it meant to them that we were there, and just the unity that baseball brings, kind of transcending language barriers and all that.
Finally, one more soundbite here from Ramon Laureano. Obviously, Mexico City, Estadio Alfredo Harpelu, probably not the easiest place to play outfield because of the altitude, and the ball carries in a way that you're just not accustomed to. Here was Ramon on playing outfield in Mexico City.
The ball carries a lot here, 40 plus feet, but I just play a little deeper and see the ball, catch the ball, not overthink it.
Classic Ramon, not overthinking it, just playing baseball. Ramon Laureano back in the leadoff spot for the Padres today. Let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovements.com.
What to watch for today? Can the Padres take advantage of a struggling pitcher? And I'm talking about Diamondback starter Ryan Nelson, coming off the worst start of his career last Sunday against the Blue Jays. He retired just one of the 10 batters he faced, gave up 8 runs on 8 hits in that start against the Blue Jays. Only 8 pitchers across the majors this season have allowed more runs than Nelson so far in 2026. However, Ryan Nelson has been good against the Padres, especially lately. He's 2-0 with a 1.33 ERA in his last 4 appearances, 3 starts against San Diego. So we'll see if the Padres can get to a guy who is struggling, but a pitcher that has been good against them as of late. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. When we come back, we send things down to Estadio Alfredo Harpelu in Mexico City. Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. standing by, ready to go. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.